I'm here with Sally Rippin, and she's a book illustrator for quite a few books. You're going to be telling us and demonstrating some art skills for one of them. Speak Chinese, Fang Fang.
This is the first picture book that I wrote and illustrated. And so I'll talk a little bit about the technique that I use in this. The first thing that they will teach you is how to use what they call the 4 treasures. Treasure number 1 is the brush. So these are the brushes that I had as a student in China, but I still use a lot of these brushes today. Rice paper, obviously very important, quite difficult to use, quite fragile. Third treasure is an ink stone, and treasure number 4 is an ink stick, which is compounded pigment. So this is a goat hair brush, so it holds a lot of water, and you can get it into quite a fine point like that. If I was going to do a water brush stroke, I'd fill my brush up so that the brush stroke is quite pale. Take tiny little bit of ink just on the tip like that. You can just do quite a pale brush stroke. So you're thinking of creating as much contrast as you can. So water is very pale, very wishy-washy. And then if I'm doing mountains, I want them to be quite contrasted. Yeah. So I dry my brush out a little bit so I can have quite a dry brush stroke. And like this, with the same brush, I can have quite a different texture. I can have those lovely big mountains that kind of come up out of the water. Put in some detail if I want to later on. And then if I want to do mountains that are very far away, I do another kind of brush stroke that's quite a big, soft, loose brush stroke like that. And perhaps separate the foreground and the background just with some mist and clouds. So that's a very basic Chinese painting, which I would then sign with a chop. And then this is a chop that has my name in Chinese carved into it. And every artist has a whole collection of chops, different shapes and sizes. And then they'll use those to sign their work with. Something like this. I would just do a very basic sketch of where I thought the heads were going to be. Very important when I was planning it out to know that this was going to be the middle of the page, so I knew that I was going to have to leave a little bit of space between those 2 characters. Brush and ink strokes were done just as I showed you, so very strong, simple brush strokes. And then while the paper was still a little bit wet, I added the watercolouring because I quite liked that little bit of a blurry feel to it. I think it gives a bit of movement and makes it not seem too tight. So I'll see if I can find this picture in here and you can compare it. Like that.
Okay.